So you think I'm standoffish and unwelcoming? Yes. But here you are, talking to me. Didn't stop you, did it? Obviously, it wasn't working. The RBF is not working enough to prevent you from coming over here.
Still, you're here.
You're here, and you're talking to me, and you're not going to stop because you're going to keep coming to me. There's so many other people you can ask questions to, but you're not going to ask them. You're going to come here. So obviously, the RBF is not even working properly.
Hey, Julie.
Guess what?
What?
We've thrown out our plans, and I want to talk about something that I feel like needs to be talked about.
We've thrown out our plans. Okay,
Yeah.
great. What are we talking about?
We're going to talk about introverts and extroverts
Okay.
and ambiverts, because there is such a thing.
Yeah.
And I personally, as an introvert, feel misunderstood. So I want to talk about the extrovert-introvert dynamic and how society, we've changed a little bit in how we see introverts and extroverts. So you're an extrovert.
I am?
Yes, you're an extrovert.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there are times, though, that I like my peace and quiet, too, though.
Sure.
There's a balance.
I feel like I'm an introvert, and people like you think I'm socially awkward.
I mean, at times, yeah, you are.
I am. I am very socially awkward. But introverts are not.
But I love you anyways.
But introverts are not socially awkward. So as an introvert, I experience extroverts all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then usually after I have an experience with them, I'm exhausted. And
You're so dramatic. I'm exhausted. I really felt that.
it's a lot. So my husband's an extrovert.
Yeah.
And so, but the interesting thing about me is I grew up being forced to be an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think culturally, that was what was considered a good personality.
Sure.
It's an extroverted personality. Someone that can talk to anybody, include anybody in a conversation, can move the room. And so I think I was trained that way, but it was stressful for me internally.
Yeah. You and I talked, I think yesterday when we were talking about stuff, about just different like tests that you do to figure out like what personality type you are or whatever. And one of the things we were talking about was adaptability. And like I took this test, I think it was called the Strengths Finder, Strengths Test or something. And I was like, wow, my number one thing is adaptability. Is that a good thing?
And I said, you're the most broken human I know.
Thanks, Julie.
Adaptability, I've taken this before.
But seriously, it's because you're constantly adapting to situations and to people and
you make every situation work. That's what adaptability is.
Yeah.
And you know this, I've moved, 28 times. I've been to 14 schools. Like I've learned as a child how to adapt.
Yeah.
Very quickly. Different people, different personalities. I've just learned.
Yeah.
And so, and as I got older, I realized, oh, I'm so broken because you're so used to adapting. You don't really even know who you are.
Well, I wonder if that's why being an introvert maybe was part of that, was part of your escape from all the craziness of all the moving, constantly adapting.
Yeah. And then when I got married and my husband kind of stepped into more of an extrovert role, I feel like it allowed me permission to be an introvert.
Sure.
And it really helped. It just helped me be more self-aware. And I get my peace from being alone.
Yeah.
And so, but I love people sometimes. I do love people sometimes. But some people are just full-blown extroverts.
Yeah.
Like my husband always wants to be with people all the time. I think you're a little bit of both. So there's something called an ambivert.
Yeah.
They're a little bit of both.
I guess that's me, because when you were like, are you an introvert? Well, you obviously know I'm more extroverted, but there are times though in seasons of life or around certain people where I might be more extrovert or more introvert. And
You're always forced to be an extrovert when you're with me because I'm introverted. But
true.
sometimes when you're with Seth, I feel like you're allowed to be introverted because he's so extroverted.
Yeah. Well, it's true. We were just talking about this. I'm like, where you been? He took the dog out to go to the bathroom. He's been gone for an hour and a half. He's like, oh, I went to the neighbor's house. I'm like, why are you talking to everybody? And for me, I'm more watching the time, like doing things. And I'm not, I still say hello and talk to people, but I'm not caught up in full conversations where he does. He gets caught up in conversations.
Yeah,
sure.
My husband will come home from a dog walk and tell me, Susie down there is having surgery on her knee.
Yeah.
We should probably take them a meal on Thursday. And
that's so nice, though.
no, because he's not cooking the meal. He's volunteering me.
He's volunteering you. Well,
he knows everybody.
You could still do it in the peace and quiet of your own kitchen.
Sure. I do love doing that. So,
Yeah.
But I feel like when you're with an extrovert, like you have to create that balance. And I think introverts just get a bad rap anyway, because I think, but the same energy that an extrovert has to push out is the same energy as introverts need to remain calm through a bunch of extroverts, if that makes sense. And so I think because you're forced to be extroverted when you're with me, because I just act like I don't talk to anybody.
I know you're like, thank God you're with me because I don't know what I was going to talk to them about.
Yeah. Or, but I have my moods.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. But I remember one day I had to go walk the dog, and usually Terrence and me, we all go, but he takes the dog for extra walks.
Yeah.
And I remember when I went to take him out, there's some kid on a skateboard, and he goes, "Hi, Ted." Hi, Ted's owner. It's probably the first time he'd ever seen me. Like, he knew the dog.
Yeah.
I was just Ted's owner.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows me. I'm just I'm the wife, strange wife that doesn't talk to anybody, So I think, but we're not allowed to be introverted.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why we're talking about dog walking, but here we are talking about dog walking. But it's funny because I live in a neighborhood where everyone's very cordial. Everyone likes to say hello, and that's nice. But there are times when I pop my, earbuds in, and I'm just like, in the zone. I'm trying to keep up a pace and walk and listen to a podcast or something. And, well, they don't see the earbuds because they're so small, but they genuinely want to have conversation, just check in. And so for my neighbors that might be listening to this, I do care about you, but sometimes I'm just on a mission to get my walk done and on to the next thing,
Yeah.
And so for me, even though I'm an extrovert, sometimes, I'm using that time for myself or to recharge or to learn something.
Yeah. I think when I was younger, it was kind of considered negative to be an introvert.
Yeah.
Like extrovert was like the thing you wanted to be because that meant you were social and you.
Sure.
But now we've come to a different place in society where like it's not about your personality, it's about how you gain energy.
Yeah.
And what drains you. Mm-hmm. So for me, I do have a social battery and it does deplete.
Yeah.
My husband does not have a social battery that depletes. It's always 100%.
Mm.
And so I realized, this does drain me. Mm-hmm. I need time to myself.
Yeah.
And I do like doing things by myself. Mm-hmm. And so I can get very introverted, and you know this, when you text me.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I'm not the greatest texter.
No, but you're not. I don't take offense to it, though, honestly, because I know your heart about things. So I'm like, well, she'd rather have an in-person conversation because that's the way you prefer to communicate too. But yeah, when I text you like a very genuine, like, hey, thank you, or, this was great, and there's nothing back, I'm like, well, and then you respond to something else.
I'm like, hey, did you see this meme?
Okay.
And I send her a reel. I know, because I think like somebody will send me like a really long text message, and I'm the person that goes, okay. I do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot.
I'm the person, though, that I'm going to send you an audio text because not only do
you and everybody else. It's trending right now, I guess.
Maybe it is. Maybe it's trending. Well, the thing is like you can misinterpret maybe context or a tone when it's just texted, but when you can send an audio, I think it means more. You should take it as a compliment. Like they're trying to communicate better with you.
I do prefer the audio over reading a long text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quicker.
I think it is faster. But I think being around people, like, I know when I go out of town for a weekend for a wedding, I think I told you this in the summer.
Yeah.
I was like, you were like, hey, can we meet on Monday?
Yeah.
And I told you, no.
I knew you needed a day.
Yeah.
I don't even think I asked, or did I ask?
Well, you were like, I don't know if you need a day.
Yeah.
Like you said that
right.
to me. But I was like, no, because there's going to be people Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't want to see people. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do anything. You're like, you said you're probably going to need a day after you come back. Let's meet on Tuesday. And that's true because I just need to decompress from, and I love it. I love going to family events. It's one of my favorite things. But I know I feel drained after the fact.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, though. So for those of us that are extroverts and we have friends or family that are introverts, it's give them the space that they need to recharge and being aware of that without putting pressure on them. Because I think, like you said, you genuinely want to be there, but understanding like, hey, you might need a day or or a few, depending on what's going on, to be cognizant of that and to not take it personal, not take offense to that.
Yeah. And then, when you're at a family event, you can't be like, hey guys, I need to go take an afternoon nap. Don't like being around you guys. Need a minute.
Yeah.
Like, I can't say that. So you do all the events with them and you'd only have so much time with them. So you want to spend it with them, but I'm tired after the fact. And so I need a day. I can't schedule things back to back to back.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes even when we're doing things at work, when we're trying to fill a position, we'll be like, is this person extroverted or introverted? Because there's a personality we're looking for.
Yeah.
And we kind of assess that. And I feel
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you need the right person for the role.
Introverts lose out.
That's true.
Because a personality hire, because when you look for a personality hire, you're looking for the extrovert. Because they tend to unify, they bring a team together.
They do.
Yeah, they do. And so you're less and the introvert might be more qualified.
Yeah. But that's on them. They got to...
See what I mean? The whole world is prejudiced against introverts. That's just what I'm saying.
I mean, I'm just saying, you want the role, you better, be prepped for the role.
Yeah.
Put yourself out there a little bit, even if it's a lot for you.
But I remember we've selected a personality hire before over, a person that was probably more qualified.
Yeah.
And it's because there was some weird team dynamics there, and we thought that could add to the help of the unifying of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I was like, introverts lose out every which way. They really do sometimes. And it's hard because being an ambivert helps me.
Yeah.
Because I kind of know when they expecting an extrovert.
Sure.
I'm never introverted when I'm doing a job interview.
Yeah, yeah.
It helps me. But if you're a full-blown introvert, I think it can hurt you. Yeah. Because I think society thinks you're socially awkward.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess for someone who is an introvert is just being self-aware in different environments. I mean, I don't know. How do you coach an introvert? I have no idea. I just expect you to I don't know.
Well, I mean, but you're kind of introverted sometimes too, because your husband is funny. And then when we laugh, you're like, don't laugh at his jokes. Don't encourage him.
Well, then he just keeps going. I'm like, dude, that's enough.
But he's genuinely funny. And you're like, it's not funny. And we're like, yeah, it is. It is funny. Why are you broken?
Working on it, okay?
You're like, don't encourage him. It's not even funny. You don't have to give him a courtesy laugh.
Well, he just keeps going. Because he is an extrovert, though.
Yeah, he very much so.
He just enjoys it. He tries to do it with me, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. But it's funny because I remember the first time I talked to him, I was like, oh, yeah, when I first met your wife, was she mean?
He does that.
Yeah. He asked me, he's like, was she mean?
Was she mean?
I was like mean to me? I was like, no, she's amazing. He goes, oh, okay, good. He's
done that before. He'll be like, hey, I met so-and-so. And the first question I asked him was, oh, you know my wife? Oh, what do you think? He automatically thought I was going to be this super mean or intense person, and maybe some other choice words at other seasons of life. I'm like, why would you think the worst? And he's like, I don't know. You're a little intense with me.
You are intense.
Am I?
Yeah, I feel like you have an intensity for for Yeah. But people tell me I am too.
I'm just dealing with it, I guess. I don't know.
I'm just trying to be introverted over here.
Am I supposed to fix my intensity, my level of intensity?
I don't think so.
I guess the ambivert. I guess I try to adjust. That's the adaptability piece of it.
It is.
I'm not always intense, but I can be.
I feel like most people are ambiverts that I meet. They know how to adapt and they know how to adjust in situations. Have you ever met they used to work Julie and home Julie?
Yes.
I'm two different people.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of people like that. They're different in different situations and scenarios. And then my husband always tells me, I feel like nobody really knows you. They don't really know you. And I'm like, well, yeah, because I'm probably extroverted Julie when they're dealing with me. Mm-hmm. Because my roles have required that of me. Yeah. And so that's who they know. They don't know the introverted me.
Well, we talk about authenticity a lot on our podcast too. And I think sometimes you and I were having a conversation yesterday. And I'm like, your husband doesn't know about that? And you're like, no. I mean, and not to throw you under the bus because I'm not, but there are things that we might be dealing with in life and you don't share. You don't share everything with everybody at work, or you don't even share all of your emotional things with your spouse at times because you're still kind of managing through it yourself. And so I think that the reality is that as we are kind of growing and evolving, we figure out what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it was you I had this conversation with when people tell me they hear something and they feel something and they have an emotion. That actually doesn't happen to me. usually when somebody's telling me something, I immediately don't have an emotion. I usually have to think about what they told me. And then a day later, I'll be like, yeah, I'm mad about that. But I don't get mad immediately. If that makes sense. I don't have an immediate emotion. Usually I have to process what it is before I have a emotional response.
Yeah.
So I really have to think about it. And I think some people think that makes me like cold.
Yeah.
Because they're saying something to me that probably is bad and I probably should have like an emotional response. But I don't because I'm like, well, I have to think about that for a minute. Like what actually happened there and how do I feel? And I have to think about how I feel before I actually be like, okay, I feel this way about this situation.
Well, it's not a bad thing because then you got me on the other hand where I might respond with intensity.
Or tears.
or tears. Or anger. But I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Like you definitely get emotional. You're like, there was an old man on the corner of the street and he had a puppy. And then it's like waterworks. And
no, that's you. You're the one about puppies.
I know. I love animals. But they're better than people sometimes. So I do. I have my soft spots. Kids. I love kids.
I do. I think as I change, as I get older and I become more self-aware with certain things, or I'm, just working on bettering things and understanding things in the past and how I can change. I think the way that I wear my emotions or my intensity or my tears, because I have been known to be a crier, and which is why I have tissues close by sometimes. But I think you kind of change as you kind of grow and evolve as an individual.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think an introvert could be a good leader or a good CEO? Or
I do actually, because, and I think about a CEO that I worked with, and they actually, okay, this is for you. This is for the introverts. He was an introvert, but he had to change and adapt to certain situations in order to build the company that he wanted to build and build a brand, because people got to get to know you. And if you're constantly in a place where you're not letting people in, or there's only few people that you let in, they don't necessarily understand the goals or the vision of the organization. And so we actually had a conversation specifically about that. And it was, listen, I'm actually an introvert. I get my energy, like you were saying, from being alone and digging into data and like different things like that. And that's where he thrived. But he's had to build an organization based off of adapting. And part of that was a challenge. It was something that had to be learned. So the point is, back to the hiring for someone for a position, sometimes you have to learn what is needed for what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I don't want to let people in. That was stressful when you even said that.
I could see the stress in your eyes. You were like, she's not saying the thing I want to hear.
Well, what do you do when you meet somebody and they're very extrovert and they're trying to get to know you and you're just kind of like, yeah, no. We can be acquaintances, but we're never going to be BFFs. Like, that's just never going to happen.
If you put off that vibe, you will just be acquaintances.
No, extroverts are persistent. They're persistent in their desire to want to connect. And so even though, like, I blow them off, it doesn't work. Like, me and you talked about this, right? About the situation at work. And there was a lady that came to our team. And she literally comes to me like 4 or 5 times a day for questions about the job, which it's my responsibility to help her understand. Sure. So I get that. But one day she comes up, I guess she got really bold and decided to come up to my cube and tell me, hey, I just feel like you get really annoyed and standoffish when I come over here and ask you questions, and like your face and your paw. And she's trying to tell me I have RBF. And like the way I'm behaving towards her was very like standoffish and not welcoming.
What'd you say?
Not the most appropriate thing. But
I mean, that's pretty bold of her.
Well, I think, you know why? Because the day before we had some stupid session where they were talking about be open in communication and try to solve your own problems with your employees.
So she was trying.
She was trying.
Yeah.
So then I said, so you think I'm standoffish and unwelcoming? Yes. But here you are, talking to me. Didn't stop you, did it? Obviously, it wasn't working. The RBF is not working enough to prevent you from coming over here.
Still, you're here.
You're here, and you're talking to me, and you're not going to stop because you're going to keep coming to me. There's so many other people you can ask questions to, but you're not going to ask them. You're going to come here. So obviously, the RBF is not even working properly. It needs to be stronger, apparently. And so she's super bubbly, extroverted. She's actually super sweet.
Yeah.
But like, I would be lying to you if I said the extrovertness was so annoying and obnoxious to me at times.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in work mode, I'm in work mode.
Yeah.
And I just want to work. And so she would be like, oh, you guys want to go to lunch? No. No, I don't want to go to lunch. I'll eat lunch by myself. I've got 10,000 things I'm thinking about I need to get done. And so I think, I remember thinking, obviously it's not enough to stop an extrovert. They can be very persuasive in their intent to build relationship.
I guess I can be pretty persuasive.
Yeah. It's kind of like there's always an extrovert that finds an introvert and forces you to be their friend. You know what I mean? Like,
is that why we're friends?
No.
Did I force you to be my friend?
No, you didn't. I have other extroverted friends that came up to me like, you're an introvert, you're mine now.
Yes, I know. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, I love her.
Yeah.
But she was just like, no, we're going to be friends. I'm like, no, we're nothing alike. No, we're going to be friends forever.
But you're friends now.
Yeah, I love it. So, but I think there is a complex. I think the introvert world is difficult. I think the world can be difficult for introverts because we embrace the extrovert. But thank God for ambiverts.
Yeah.
Because I think now that's the balance.
Well, I think part of it too, whether you're introvert or extrovert, and we talked about this on another episode about boundaries. And I think sometimes for the introverts, maybe there has to be boundaries of where you're not like the scheduling and your calendar and things like that. So you're not having to put yourself in a situation with all the extroverts or having to be so social when you do need that time to recharge. And then for the extroverts is if you have a spouse who's an introvert is knowing the balance. And so, I mean, listen, we're all created differently and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's okay. And part of it is, just trying to build better communication through it.
Yeah, but in all seriousness, how do I become less socially awkward?
I don't know, Julie. Work on this, I guess. I don't know. Respond to a text. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Like,
I mean, like
I do
mine.
respond to text, but like only if it requires an answer.
I know. I guess,
I know. Taryn sends me text messages. You're a beautiful friend. I love you so much. Your heart is so beautiful. And I'm so glad you're my friend. I'm like,
you never respond.
Cool. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. But if you were asking me, hey, what time are you going to be there tomorrow? I'll be like, 8 a.m.
Okay, I'll just make sure I said a question.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, my introvert is like, that's a lot for 10 o'clock in the morning, but okay, cool. It's fine. Yeah. I can get better about responding. I can see
we're all evolving.
We're evolving and we're growing.
And for us extroverts, we just can't take offense because they may not know how to handle your intensity.
So the life lesson here is be very graceful and patient with people that are opposite of you and how they operate, and try to be understanding of where they get their energy and where they're losing their energy. Please be aware. Please watch someone's introvert social meter just kind of drain gradually throughout the day.
Yeah. And for those of us that might be extroverts, find other extrovert friends.
Yes.
That you can pull that energy from and still be friends, of course, with the introverts, but give them the space that they need.
But you know what extroverts do when they make friends with other extroverts? Y'all fight for space.
We do?
Yeah. Y'all fight for speaking time and space. And then it stresses the introvert out because we're both trying to do it at the same time. And, hog the conversation. You don't do that, though. But you just let people be. Yeah.
I do. I mean, I feel like I do. Now that you're saying that, I'm like sitting here self-reflecting, like, do I do that?
No, you don't do that at all. Like when it's you and Seth, you just let Seth be the extrovert. Like you don't try to be the extrovert.
Yeah.
You automatically revert to being the introvert.
I guess I do.
Yeah. But I've seen two very strong extroverts really like fight for the attention.
Yeah.
And
that's exhausting.
For us, watching it's exhausting. Listening to it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes you have to be like, I'm going to go to the restroom. And hide.
Just excuse myself from this.
And hide. But also as an introvert, I have to learn coping mechanisms because I can't I want to hide in a house, but apparently it's not healthy to stay home and not talk to people. So in
that might be called like, I don't know, it might have another name for that.
Sure. I mean, whatever. If y'all think it's unhealthy, it's unhealthy. But like people were talking about all the like the mental health issues that came during COVID. And I remember I told you.
It's a real thing.
I was thriving. There were no events. There was no dinners. There was no extracurricular activities. It was
more time for Julie.
I was thriving during
believe
COVID. Like, it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever experienced. I was like, this is great. This is amazing. And people like my husband really struggled.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, all the events are canceled. You have to be super careful. When people are getting sick or have symptoms, we're not going.
Yeah.
All the things were happening. And I think he really struggled through that, the human connection part of it.
Yeah.
I was thriving. It was the greatest years of my life. I was just...
You're ridiculous.
It was amazing. But there may be an unhealthy part of that too. But
Yeah.
I just think that you have to come to a place. I run from extroverts, and you know this. Like, I'll be like, oh my gosh, they're an extrovert. But I'm trying to come to a place where I'm like, hey, we all need to be together.
Yes.
We need each other.
Yes.
And just trying to communicate, I'm not angry. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
And I think just really communicating that, like, I'm peopled out.
Yeah.
My people meter's low. And I've noticed that if I communicate that a little more, they're a lot more respectful of where I am.
Right.
And they're not expecting me to engage in a conversation as much.
Well, at that point, they're not taking offense, right? Because at that point, then they understand, like, hey, she just needs to recharge.
Yeah.
Like, we have another friend, too, and she'll, like, disappear for days and be like, hey, you haven't heard from her. And then I'll check in, be like, hey, you good? And she's like, yeah. I had to recharge. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because the extrovert in me is like, wait, are they okay?
Yeah, well, then I'll ask you, where's so-and-so? And you're like, I already checked in. They're just spending some me time together. And I'm like, I totally get that. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me. So I think
But check in on those people. Check in on them. And
you don't have to check in on me ever.
Oh.
No one has to check in on me. I'm good.
Or not. Maybe checking in's intense. I don't know.
I'm good. I will never feel bad if you don't check in on me. I promise. Probably, as I'm sitting here thinking this, I probably will need a little therapy here.
This podcast is literally going to turn into like a couch for one of us in one of these sessions. I feel it.
So goals here, we're going to learn to be more understanding of others and where they're at and their needs, and try not to criticize introverts and hire them more, even though they're not a personality hire. They are useful and smart at the same time. And some of us are ambiverts, so you're not always going to get us as an extrovert or an introvert.
Yeah.
So
extroverts need to be more aware.
Oh, but are they?
Listen, you said I wasn't, intense all the time. So
no, you're not. Not at all.
So working on the awareness, I think, is key.
Yeah.